The following series contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this video is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1800 858 858 or visit www.gamblinghelpline.org.au. Well, Gator, great to be joining you for another episode of our Cup Countdown, and wowee, so much has happened in the last couple of days. We've got a massive lineup for the show ahead of us, but let's firstly talk about the horse that's now at the top of the betting because he's coming from Ireland, Jan Bruegel.
Yeah, he's the banner horse, isn't he? He fits the profile, the Northern Hemisphere 3-year-old. So it'd be fascinating. We've had a few other landings as well, but he's the banner horse, yeah.
Well, he's not here yet. He's just entered quarantine over in Ireland for Ballydoyle. Aidan O'Brien, this horse is so exciting, but we have had a glimpse out of Werribee already because some horses on the first shipment have arrived, and there's a plethora of horses coming for all of our feature races, but a handful that are really focusing in on potentially getting to the Melbourne Cup. We've got the likes of Sea King for Harry Eustace, we've got Birdman for Chris Waller, Sadati for Kieran Maher, and also One Smooth Operator for Brian Ellison, who probably this horse in particular, he's the highest up in the order of entry. He's got to win his way in, but he looks like he could give it a shake if he was able to do that. Yeah,
there's a couple of fascinating runners there. The one I'm focusing on of those is Birdman, just because he's at least lightly raced and he's got a lot of upside. He has form around a horse called Illinois, who you saw run second to Jan Bruegel recently. So he's one I'm keeping a firm eye on.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how these horses go at Werribee, of course, in a totally new environment now. But Jan Bruegel, the one that we are most excited about once he gets on the plane and comes out to Australia. And in light of this horse coming, let's check in with senior trader Tim Ryan for a market update.
G'day Grace, g'day Gator. It's great to be joining you with another tab, Melbourne Cup betting update. Well, we didn't see a lot happening on the track this week. We saw plenty happening off the track, and we have a new favourite for the great race, Jan Bruegel, a $9 favourite for the race. And Aidan O'Brien, well, he's got some explaining to do. Weeks after complaining about vet protocols, we wound out most of his runners thinking they weren't coming. Jan Bruegel, among them, got to $26 before a big market correction. He's now the $9 favourite after news that he's entered quarantine and he's likely to make his way out for the great race. Speaking of imports, we had our first shipment touchdown on Aussie soil. We generally like to give these runners a bit of a trim up when they land, and Birdman, the first of them, we kept as a $26 chance. We thought he was short enough, but Sadati has been 34 into 26, Sea King 101 into 51, and One Smooth Operator also 101 into 51. But back to the favourite, Jan Bruegel. What's your take on him, guys? Too classy or too much weight? No sitting on the fence, please.
Gee, I'm happy to sit on the fence a little bit. Tim, he's just throwing the fishing line out there. We've still got a way to go. But look, obviously he fits the strong recent profile, doesn't he? He's unbeaten, his upside's immense. How will he get... Look, he'll probably have to peak, a career peak on the day to win the race. And has he got too much weight? That's the query. They haven't missed these Northern Hemisphere 3-year-olds anymore with the weights, have they?
No, they haven't. And that's the important thing to raise, I think. When Cross Counter and Rekindling were able to do this, follow this profile, be the Northern Hemisphere 3-year-olds, 51 kilos and 51.5 kilos. Now, this horse, Jan Bruegel, I'll get the name right eventually, 54 kilos. I mean, it's still a winning weight in my opinion, but for a horse that is all upside, but we don't know the ceiling yet. Is it good enough to win a Melbourne Cup? We just don't know. So that's the $1 million question.
And the fact remains, with 54 over 51, he has to be X amount of margin better than what we thought in that early profile. So he's fascinating though, and it's great for the race that he's heading there most likely.
Yeah, and to have a horse that's unbeaten in 4 starts, absolutely scintillating, certainly adds some spice to the Melbourne Cup picture. So Gator, we've now got enough of an idea to start putting some predictions out there, and I want us each to come up with 2 horses that at this point in time we're identifying for various reasons. Now the first one I'm going to identify is an interesting one because Circle of Fire. Now this horse was so brilliant in his first Australian preparation back in the autumn where we saw him winning the 3200 metre Sydney Cup in dominant fashion. He sat deep, he was just way better than the field on that occasion. But his first up run in the Makybe Diva Stakes was so disappointing. So I'm identifying this horse as one that we need to be watching because he can bounce back in the Turnbull Stakes. If he brings his best, and we need him to do that, I think he's still a serious player for the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, look, I think the first up run was forgivable, given it was a tough track, wasn't it? And he was first up over a distance that was unsuitable. You mentioned his Sydney Cup run. I mean, there was echoes of shocking, sitting wide and being dominant. So this is a crossroads race for him, though, I agree.
Definitely. Who's your first horse to be watching for the Melbourne Cup?
Yeah, we touched on one last week called Future History, and we obviously haven't seen him since, but he will go to the Metrop on Saturday with a lightweight, and I think it was a genuine forgive run in our feature race, the big race, the Melbourne Cup last year. So we'll see how he goes on Saturday. Obviously, a handicap suits him. We know he can stay, and he's still got some upside.
Yeah, really interesting horse. Definitely going well as well at this point in time. So I think he's a really good one to be watching, especially in the Metropolitan on Saturday. One horse that's running here at Flemington, not in any of the Group 1s, but in the Bart Cummings, a winning your in golden ticket race into the Melbourne Cup, is St George. This beautiful, steely, grey, almost white horse now. Wow, when you dig deep into what he did back in England, and he's been given time since coming out to Australia, his form is elite in terms of what you need to be able to be competitive in a Melbourne Cup. Out to 2,800 metres, tick that box. So already I've got faith in that profile perspective. But his 2 runs in Australia this campaign so far have both been really good. First up, absolutely nowhere to go, no luck at all, excuses. And then last time coming through that Future History race, he stuck on really well. So I'm super excited to see him out to 2,500 metres in the Bart Cummings.
Yeah, look, I think he did loom to win, didn't he, second up? But I just thought because he didn't have a hard run at all first up and he was off 60 weeks, he may well have just needed it.
Yep.
So I think that'll top him off nicely. I think he'll run really well, win, lose or draw on Saturday, and then we'll get a really good guide on him for our great race. And
if you actually go back and take a look at what he did as a 3-year-old in England at Royal Ascot, he actually beat convincingly home Circle of Fire over a distance at Royal Ascot. So the form line certainly come into play there when it comes to St George, a horse that I will be watching. What about Warmonger?
Yeah, well, he's reminding me, and clearly a few others, given his market price, of a horse called Incentivise. And you saw what that horse did in Queensland and came here, was one of the better Caulfield Cup winners you'll see, and then second, of course, to the mighty Very Elegant in the race. So Warmonger's Queensland Derby win was out of this world. He couldn't have done any more first up, I don't think, in the Maccabi Diva. So I think he'll be hitting the line sweetly again on Saturday and confirm himself as a live hope in the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, he's just such an exciting horse at this stage. For everything you've just outlined there, he's got to be one of those horses right at the top of contention for the Melbourne Cup. Well, so many Melbourne Cup horses will be on display this Saturday, both at Randwick and also at Flemington, Gator.
That they will, and they call it moving day, Turnbull Day for a reason, so it'll be fascinating. We've mentioned the Turnbull, and obviously the Bart Cummings, the golden ticket in, and a few horses who looked terrific in the last 12 to 18 months. It's their chance to put their hand up. I'm speaking of the likes of Francesco Guardi, those sort of gallopers. So be all eyes on Flemington and Randwick. Well, at Randwick, we've got the Group 1 Metropolitan Handicap, of course, over the 2,400 metres. So another really key race to be hopefully identifying some Melbourne Cup contenders. And you know what, Gator? I'm going to put the money where the mouth is, and I'm going to actually take the $26 currently on offer with the tab market about St George, because he's got 50 kilos in the Melbourne Cup at the moment. If he wins the Bart Cummings, he will be skyrocketing at the top of the betting, I would assume. Yeah, that's right, and he'll tighten right in. So it could be a smart play by you, and it's not your first, won't be your last. Well, that's all we've got time for, but make sure you tune in again next week for another episode of Grace and Gator's Cup Countdown.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.